Welcome back, everybody. How's it going? So today we're gonna be doing a lot of things, but firstly, today is gonna be Asia's video. Let's be real. But firstly, we're gonna start in Persia, where Persia is gonna finally collapse completely. These guys have existed for way too long, and they've honestly just been taking up space at this point. They're finally going to completely collapse. Basically, widespread famine due to the blockade of these guys and the blue team. Widespread famine is basically gonna take over, and there's gonna be a major civil war, and it's gonna look like the rebels are the actual country in the civil war, and it's gonna look like the rebels are the actual country and the government is the rebels because of how big this civil war is about to be. So this is all the rebel controlled territories now. That's just starting off. This is how bad this famine is. That this many people are rebelling. This is what's actually left under the government, and yeah, we can begin the civil war. So in the first waves of attacks, this major city is basically just captured and destroyed, completely burnt to the ground, and same with these two. And from here, we can move on to this, where the government is able to push down a little bit. Able to push back the rebels a little bit, but in the process of doing that, they're forced to basically burn a lot of the land, and the rebels basically use this as a big propaganda thing, and they're able to gather more support and push. And at this point, the rebels don't really know what to do. A lot of people are saying just destroy the country and let us all leave, or claim Arab Republic citizenship or red team citizenship or something. A lot of people are saying split it up into smaller countries. Some people are saying we don't need to do anything, we just need a new government, because this one is a dictatorship, because they came to power through war. So there was no election to actually elect these guys, and people were happy with them while they were being successful over here, and then they stopped being successful. But yeah, that's happening, and then yeah, they're not really able to decide. But the guy himself, that the main leader, there isn't even really a main leader. It's just a lot of warlords. There is some major, two major political figures that are going to basically be sharing leadership, or this half the people follow one, half the people follow the other, and those two start fighting within each other. So that's going to lead to a separate, even bigger civil war, and that's going to be between these two rebel leaders. So one is going to, oh, oops, that might have been too big of a civil war. So one leader is the gray one who wants the dissolution of the entire country, and the other is the brown one uh who wants it to be split into smaller states, and then the people who wanted a new government, this government has basically collapsed, so they assume control over the actual government, so they're just gonna be fighting as that. Yeah, that's gonna immediately fall though. That capital is gone. That is rebel controlled. But the dissolutionaries are actually gonna start gaining a lot of popularity, because thing is, a lot of people might be wondering why in civilization restarts do all the countries after civil war just why is there always one civil war party that just wants the destruction of the entire country? And that is because basically, if you're completely uncolonized, either one, you have control, it's anarchy, but you have control over your own stuff, and the people can do whatever they want. But two, there's no borders, which means you can freely move. Like, for example, people who live here, they can freely move and maybe come to the blue team border, request blue team citizenship, go into blue team, and then immigrate over here, take a boat to the capital, and look, they're now in the richest country in the world. That's basically why. So that they can basically just because if you're a Persian citizenship holder, Persia is enemies with everyone around them. Who are you gonna go to? These guys have you banned. These guys have you banned. But if it's uncolonized, then these people can go into Shanghai or something, and go to blue team or stuff like that, because it's not really controlled. And then a lot of other people, there's that, but also a lot of other people hope that the blue team just colonizes this land instead, and then you get blue team citizenship anyways. But yeah, that doesn't really matter to the story. Um, the dissolutionaries eventually do come out on top, and they're gonna actually push these guys all the way over here, and eventually take over the capital and destroy Persia once and for all. So Persia has now officially fallen. They fell a long time ago when they lost all of this stuff, all of that. That was a crazy amount of loss, probably the biggest loss the country has ever had. But then they kind of turned into this thing. But now they have fully collapsed, and we are back to a world without Persia. Uh, yeah, a lot of people do try to recover it, but the guy who was leading the dissolutionaries, who wanted there to still be somewhat of a city state type thing, he wanted that, but that's not what he was campaigning on. And eventually, when people found out that that's what he actually wanted to do, he wanted a smaller state. He kind of got oofed, so he's gone. And yeah, with that, Persia officially falls. a lot of the big city area becomes a part of the explored but uncolonized, like not the gray area. But all of this just becomes uncolonized. That's gone. That is never coming back. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah. Uh, I am wondering honestly if maybe I should just like cut this like over here like that, something like that. Because honestly, I think the story would look better, look better if I was to actually start the uncolonized, the gray area stuff from like over there. No, would that not look better? Let me see that. Let me actually see that. I want to see what it looks like. I feel like this looks honestly a little bit better. It is what it is. I don't really care. They both serve the exact same purpose. The gray is just to remind me that I can come back to this land sometime, once, sometime. But yeah, immediately this is all just gone now. I think this northern stuff that was like mostly run off of one of the major cities over here, that's probably just gonna completely fall apart. There's no one living there now. Remember, for the new people, white is completely uncolonized. Like no one's able to really live there. This still has some organization. There's still tribes, cities, still mostly flourishing, rebel controlled, but it's anarchy, and no one controls it. It's anarchy in here. Here, there's no structure and order. It's not anarchy. It's not like there's groups forming and stuff. It's just native land. It's like uncolonized. We don't care about what's happening in the white areas. There could be entire countries over here, even in the Americas. Maybe you'll have to see. You'll have to stay tuned. Maybe there was a storyline going on here, like while all this was going on, and maybe there's already countries there. Probably not, but you'll have to stay tuned. Anyways, as far as we know, no countries are here. I just want to make that clear. I was making a joke. We're not about to throw in no plot twist. We're chilling. Anyways, stand Civil War. Let's get back to that since we are in Asia already. Yeah, basically these guys they were in that Civil War, and that Civil War is gonna continue. The rebels are gonna capture this little northern thing, and with Persia gone, they're actually gonna be able to like hit a pretty big expansion. I can't lie. They're gonna expand pretty far because a lot of those troops got caught up with fighting on the border since rebels were like attacking, and a lot of people were trying to like escape into there. Anyways, though, the capital is for the first time actually gonna get reached. So the capital, these guys are on the outskirts of the capital, and eventually they're actually going to be able to take, to encircle the capital, but not take control of it yet. And yeah, eventually they are going to get control of it completely and actually burn it to the ground to capture the king. And the king is going to be captured and oofed, but the prince is going to escape and he's going to take control of the country. Actually, no, there's no more royal family. The the military general is going to take control of the country's government, but he's really close with the king, so it's okay, and it's still the same government, but it's the military ruler now, and the royal family is gone, which shows like how bad the civil war is getting for these guys. The rebels are gonna continue, but are gonna have to stop because their main guy just oofed due to old age, so they're now left leaderless, and they don't really want a civil war in their territory with all the warlords trying to take like control. So they're actually gonna stop the invasion and declare a ceasefire and basically just hold their elections. Now they're a democracy. They are a democracy and they are functioning like a democracy right now. They're pretending that everything is okay and there's no war and we can just have an election. Uh One of the old military generals is going to win the election, and these guys are gonna probably get back to that civil war next episode. For now, the new capital is probably gonna be placed like over here somewhere, little like pretty far away. Um, yeah. What's next? I am also like very heavily debating if this should just stop existing. I think probably not, just because it doesn't really make sense. Anyways, North Mughal expansion. That is not okay. Where is that? Oh yeah, these guys. I forgot about that. Uh, yeah, these guys they are going to follow pretty much the same path that these guys followed, and they're going to go south. And I think they've realized why this path was followed, and that is because this thing is extremely difficult to live in. So they're gonna go south, and I'm pretty sure where is the Himalayas? The Himalayas are somewhere over here. Are they further north? Okay, if we go like this and we go a little bit up, and Myanmar is right here, right here, somewhere over here. Myanmar's border is, and then India goes like this in a straight line and it hits Pakistan, but it goes up first. I think the Himalayas are over here. So this is populated. This is okay. This is livable. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't yapping nonsense. I wanted to make sure that that had some logic to it. Pretty sure that's livable. Like pretty like heavily populated area as well in our world, I think. So it's okay. This is very heavily populated. I'm just realizing. I'm just realizing that this is actually very heavily populated in our world. So this is actually that makes a lot more sense now. The capital was up here. I didn't really put that much thought into it, but it makes sense. Same with over here. Actually, I think this is a desert, but this is popular. No, the desert's up here. I don't know what I'm yapping about, bro. Anyways, yeah. So they expand over there. Oh, oops. Actually, I was not meant to correct the that. They also expand over here. They're gonna keep their internal territories actually still separate. They're gonna say everyone that lives here is actually gonna have less like rights. No, that sounds wrong. No, they're gonna they're gonna have a different citizenship. They're gonna be like overseas citizens, basically. These guys are gonna control all this though. The people living in here are probably gonna get more priority just because that's the internal land. This land's gonna get neglected, like the blue team neglects all of this stuff. But yeah, anyways, I think we can move on from that as well. I've been yapping too much. We have big things to get to. So the blue team, uh, they're actually gonna launch a complete embargo, trade embargo, and a complete blockade of Shanghai because they realized that Shanghai is kind of so. This was Shanghai's economy. Like it wasn't anything crazy. It was kind of rising, like back in the day, and then they took over all the land and it absolutely peaked. And then they went into like so many wars with Japan. It came back. I don't know how it went backwards. It came back down a little bit, then went up, went down, kind of stagnated a lot near recent years, I guess. And then as it was stagnating, it was going down, and then it completely crashed after some blue team war after the war with the blue team, completely just crashed. It kind of started to stabilize right now. Like it's kind of starting to stabilize, and the blue team is realizing that. So they do this trade embargo, and that's going to lead. Anyways, and that's going to lead to this trade embargo, and that's going to lead to a complete collapse. So these guys have just gone completely straight down, and yeah, they are continuing to drastically go down. So people are mad at this government. They're like, "Yo, just like sign." Now the blue team is doing this. They're saying that these guys need to sign a non-aggression pact with everybody here, and they need to like minimize their military. They need to decolonize all of this, and they also need to hold an election for a new like political. They want the blue team wants there to no longer be a monarchy here, which is a little bit ironic because the blue team is a monarchy, but they basically want a new government, and the blue team also starts pushing this new party to actually take control, and that is the Democratic Party, and they want those guys to be the presidents mostly because it's easier to topple democracies in this world because the monarchy. Who are you gonna replace? That you have to replace the entire government. Can't just be like because if you kill the king, then his son's gonna take power. So you have to so you have to like get rid of the entire family and like replace it with a completely new family. But in democracy, since it's gonna be completely blue team owned, they'll just remove one person and they'll replace him with a different person from the same party because the entire party is going to be blue team controlled. Smart blue team. Blue team is smart. And this party is not actually going to gain that much traction, but a different group is, and that group is going to be basically some old rebels, the old rebels that always take control of this place. They're going to start a civil war. And this time, it's actually going to get really, really successful. However, as always, they're going to get absolutely destroyed. But it's going to open people's eyes a little bit. People are going to realize that change needs to happen in Shanghai for it to be successful again. And a lot of people are going to start emerging, and they're all going to be joining under one thing, and they're going to be under the Democratic Party that the blue team has given, but in joining with the military. And the military is going to basically be like, yeah, we'll be we'll get the Democratic Party in power, but we want to keep our power as well. And yeah, we'll be blue team allied to an extent. And the blue team takes that deal, and a very, very brutal civil war is going to begin. And just in the first stages of the civil war, Shanghai is going to lose almost all of its most crucial ports except for the capital. And that's just going to be because like the blue team has all these areas on embargo already, so it's not that difficult for them to all like fall to the rebels since blue team navy is right there to back them. And yeah, the rebels are basically just going to take control of all that. They're actually going to wrap around this Japanese thing just because the Japanese are definitely going to be supporting them in this war. Like Japan's main rival is about to fall, so like Japan is also probably hoping that these new rebels are like way kinder to them than the Shanghai government was, because Japan needs to like they're pretty self-sustained, but they need to do trade, and they can't be like shipping out stuff all the way to blue team. Like the blue team's major population is all the way down here in Malaysia. Do you know how long it's going to take Japanese products to get down here? They need someone like right there that they can trade with. So yeah. Anyways, over here the capital is actually going to fall pretty quickly alongside most of the capital region. But as we have learned, Shanghai in recent years has mostly stopped caring about their capital just because it falls like every other episode now. They don't really care about it anymore. Uh yeah, anyways. Um rebels are gonna start emerging everywhere else too, like way more in these regions. Like way more. Because they're gonna have a pretty easy time like taking one or two cities and then having the entire region capitulate because no one lives there. Over here, Korea is gonna get completely captured, and then from here, major rebel groups are gonna start aligning themselves with this new thing and working under the military as smaller militias. That's gonna help basically get the people, the locals over here on board. And then after capturing that south, we can just assume that all this capitulates because no one lives here again. So all that is gone. And yeah, as you can see, this is not a good situation for the main Shanghai government. I will personally not want to be in this situation. That's just me though. I don't know. Maybe Shanghai's government likes this. Maybe that's why it happens so often. Maybe they're happy. Maybe it gives them money. It probably does. It probably somewhere it probably does somehow. Anyways, the coastline is officially all gonna get lost for the first time. So Shanghai's government no longer has control over any part of their coastline. And before we go any further, I just want to make sure: do they have any like things, any overseas colonies here anymore? I don't think they do. I think it's just the mainland that's left, and I guess that little island thing. I don't know why I said little. That is actually a really big island. But yeah, Shanghai is gonna lose the outskirts completely, and it's just gonna be left with this. And from here, the royal guard is actually going to take out the current king, and they're gonna assume complete control over Shanghai, over what's left of Shanghai, and they're gonna launch a pretty brutal campaign. And they're actually gonna be able to take back all of. Nope, that's a little bit too much. They're gonna be able to take back all of this. Now, don't worry, I'm not about to hit you with no plot twist. I just want to deepen the plot a little bit. They're gonna take over all of this, and but they're gonna lose all of that. And at this point, the blue team is gonna realize they need to kind of get involved, and this is where this war really gets brutal because from here, the rebels are going to have to work overtime because they thought they had all of this like in the bag, but now the royal guard, which is like really popular with the people of the capital, because like the royal guard comes to fight for them every single war since that's where the like royalty lives. So that's like really difficult to get the people on board, and these guys kind of realize they're gonna have to force a lot of stuff. Now a lot of people are actually just gonna like get on board because they're gonna realize that the royal guard is linked to the monarchy. And they don't like the monarchy anymore. So a lot of people are gonna get on board, but the capital itself is gonna be on complete lockdown and under complete control of the royal guard. However, after a lot of fighting and a lot of naval blockades by the blue team, they're eventually gonna get reduced to just the capital, where finally the war is gonna end as the royal guard like commander chief whatever is oofed, and Shanghai is finally going to become rebel controlled. Give me a second. Let me draw the peace treaty. Wait. Also, the blue team did deploy a lot of money and troops into this, and they basically tank like their Asia budget, their East Asia budget is gone. Like it has just evaporated, and this is gonna matter in a little bit. Let me just draw the peace treaty. Boom! Jump scare. Jump scare. Anyways, we are back. So as you can see, they lost everything. They lost all the outskirts. Korea is finally united again under the Japanese. Both sides are now Japanese controlled. Reason Japan got something out of this is because remember this is a blue team puppet state. I just want you to keep that in mind at all times that this is a blue team puppet state. So they're like they are pretty much gonna do whatever the blue team wants. And one of the main objectives of the blue team was for Japan to also win. So Japan, they got that. In return, I think they're probably gonna have to get rid of this soon, but probably not yet. Uh, there's more though. These guys who are also a blue team ally, obviously gonna get some land out of this. They're gonna just grab that up. That is all theirs now, and we'll make this border more thicken up that border. That is officially theirs. And actually, they're actually gonna be invited to join the blue team alliance fully. I can't remember if that was an application dot or if that was the dot from their previous alliance. This is a new country that's basically going to break away amidst all the chaos. Not really blue team aligned, but not really unaligned with the blue team. These two are actually going to be completely destroyed during the war, which is going to lead to them being uncolonized. But also, I think you could look at it symbolically because these were like things that like bulge out into Asia, like this. This is literally just a spearhead, and that represented. I'm gonna yap philosophically. That represented Shanghai wanting to like expand into Asia and like them being aggressive. But this is a new Shanghai, bro. This is a new Shanghai. They're not aggressive anymore like that. So they're not gonna have that. They're gonna be like, look, I even picked like a softer, like warmer color for them, not like an aggressive dark color. So like they're less aggressive, I guess. This is a new Shanghai. This is a peaceful Shanghai. Shanghai isn't like Shanghai made it out the trenches. They're not hood anymore. They're nice. They're nice now. They're good boys. Um, they wouldn't hurt a fly, bro. They're sweeter than grandma's cookies now. Um, okay, I think we can move on from that. This video has gone a little bit too long. Blue team's Asia budget, budget, not even GDP, budget, and not even the entire blue team, just Asia. That budget has completely collapsed after this war because they spent so much money funding this civil war. It was just way too much money. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest with you. It was a little bit too much. Speaking of too much, hasn't completely solved the problem. Destability is still pretty bad in this region, with this being the three main kingdoms. And I have a feeling that all three of these guys are gonna break apart by the next episode. They're definitely. It's gonna look like this. They're all gonna be independent by next episode, because Shanghai just can't like stay in one directive anymore. But anyways, before that ends up happening, we'll take a look at that another time. Doesn't really matter right now. Just two more things that are gonna happen. Firstly, Bengal. Two things that are gonna happen at basically the same time. In India, now that it's peaceful and like nothing's happening anymore, we know one thing about India in this series, and that is this region is allergic to peace, bro. There cannot be peace at all. Like there was peace when there was only like strikes against the Mughals, like the old Mughal government. There weren't like actual border clashes, just like blockades and stuff. That was the closest this place got to peace because there was no war happening. But even then, the war has mostly been limited to the north, and there hasn't really been anything deep in the south, aside from when Bengal invaded Sri Lanka or Ceylon. Ceylon, yep. But that's about to change because now that there's peace, the people, the native people of this region, even the blue team people who immigrated here from Arabia, they've kind of realized that there's no real point to being a part of the blue team anymore. Like they could split off. This is the crown jewel of the blue team for a reason. And that is because they have so much resources. Instead of those resources being used in wars in Asia, how about they split up? Because if these guys do split from the blue team, they would instantly be like the number three country in the world. They could invade all these smaller states, invade the Mughals, invade Himalaya, invade Bengal, become mega country, invade like capture all this. Let me just draw it out for a second and brown how much they could have. They could take all oh, it's loading. It crashed. See, they're that big. It almost crashed. They could take literally all of this and they could still keep going. So basically under that new thing of nationalism in this region, and the region like this is also fueled heavily by the rich people in here because they're a little bit mad. I can't lie. They're like, bro, come on, bro. They're a little bit mad because they're like, yo, the Asia budget just got oops. The Asia budget, since that's depleted over here, they're like, bro, come on. Now we don't have any money for like ourselves. And the blue team will actually they took a pretty bad like hit on their GDP. It used to be 160 trillion before this. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure they reached 180 trillion a long time. It was 230 trillion before that war in Shanghai, and now it's actually down to 220 trillion. So they lost $10 trillion at that war. Their Asia budget lost, their Asia budget yearly is like, or like episode. Let's go by episode. Their budget for Asia is basically around 50 trillion, just liquid money, and they used all of that liquid money. All of it is completely gone, and they really only had and they overspent a little bit because it took 10 trillion from their actual GDP as well. which I mean, by no means is that about to impact the quality of life of anybody in the blue team over here. Maybe in Asia, but not anywhere over here. And they're still number one by a very wide margin, but 10 trillion is 10 trillion and people get mad. The rich people feel the anger even more because they're like, yo, we cannot build any of our stuff. We cannot do any projects. And the blue team refuses because that 10 trillion loss. They actually refuse to increase the budget for this episode. And that's going to lead to civil war. Now, the rich people are in this mostly just to get the blue team to like actually give them the budget increase. But the people, the common people, they are in this for the biscuit. They are going to win this for the biscuit. They're going to risk it for the biscuit. They want independence. And they're actually able to push pretty far. And that is until the blue team is forced to grant a special military budget for the just for the military. Now, initially, the blue team doesn't even want to do that. They're like, nah, India's own guard, the Indian colony's own guard has got this. That national, local, whatever guard is going to be handling this. But eventually, they're forced to deploy the military. And eventually, the civil war is like pretty quickly done. Like, that is absolutely cooked. But there is one country that is going to take the most advantage of the chaos in Blue Team Asia right now. And that country is not going to be the red team, but actually going to be Bengal, whose new government is going to be like, this is the perfect opportunity to cause some chaos over in Myanmar or Burma. And they're going to launch a pretty brutal invasion of the border regions. And this is because the blue team still has a pretty bad blockade over here. And they're not really doing this for land. They just want that blockade to be over. So they're going to launch a pretty brutal invasion. It's going to look like they're actually about to capture all of Burma. And the blue team is going to rush to get a ceasefire in there because they're out of money for this episode inside of Asia. And in this, these guys are basically going to be allowed to finally set their ships everywhere. And these two are actually going to meet up and have a pretty good conversation in the capital of the blue team. And they're going to talk. They're going to agree to finally normalize relations. So that's a good thing. I don't think there's anything more left to do this video. Pretty sure we're done everything now. They're also going to remove. These guys were previously banned from controlling anything over here. But now they're going to get that back. And I think it's looking like Bengal's dreams of an empire are dead. However, technically, if they wanted to, they're now free to go colonize in Australia and Africa once again. The embargo on them is over. Asia has completely changed after this video. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Goodbye.